Hi, I'm Dani Johnson. Thanks so much for joining me today. I just got off the phone with a precious client who's actually new to our community. And I just wanted to share with you part of the conversation that I had. I'm really, really proud of this individual. And I just was super impressed with where our conversation went and how it went. And really it caused me to think about you today. And he actually found us on a podcast, which was wild. And so I just really felt led to kind of let you in on a conversation that I think might be helpful to you. First of all, the title of today's message is, are you a son of a biatch? You know what I really want to say? A son of a bastard? No, you're not. You know, I've heard so many different scenarios where, you know, a mother had been raped and she told her son that that's how he was brought into the world, that he was a son of a rapist, you know, or a son of incest even. I've had, men that I've worked with and women that I've worked with where their mothers, as they're divulging the information about how that child came into the world, you know, they're telling the child that, you know, you were a son out of wedlock, you were a daughter out of wedlock, you were, a son of a, whatever, I wish I could just say it, but sadly people are so ridiculously over religious that they can't handle the reality of what those words really are and the point of those words. And so, you know, people have called parents have called their children a son of a witch with a capital B, or a son of a bastard, or a bastard child, a bastard son, a bastard daughter. And so those things can be like really super hateful and hurtful and not hateful, but the parents don't really understand what it is that they're actually saying. And so the point of today's message is I want you to know that you are not any of those things maybe that somebody has labeled you with. You are not, if you were born out of wedlock, as I actually, my was conceived out of wedlock. I had 2 children out of wedlock. That doesn't mean that you're cursed. That doesn't mean that you had, something, that there was something wrong with you, or that you were a sinful child because you were conceived in sin. All these different things that religion likes to put. And again, religion is doing its very best job to live by the very best example and to spread the love of the Creator all over the place in the best way that they can. But in all reality, there's some things that are just quite not right, at least in my opinion, and things that I have not been quite right on. And I know that. I'm sure that if I go back and listen to some of my, my concepts or some of my understanding from 28 years ago, I'm sure there are things that have changed and changed a lot. In fact, I can think of one right now that is completely different. But my point is this, is that you want to be cautious about what you identify with. You're not a son of a witch with a capital B. You're not a son of a bastard, which for some reason that word seems to be more acceptably said on a recording like this. You're not the son of sin because you were born out of wedlock, or a daughter of it. Please don't hear me. I'm not just talking to the guys. I'm also referring to women. And the reality is, and by the way, welcome to my bedroom. It was just like I literally got off the phone and went, I just got to talk about this. You're not a son of a rapist. You're not the son of or a daughter of incest because maybe that you were impregnated by your own father. Obviously, the woman being impregnated by the father. That's not who you are. That's not your identity. You are the son of a king. You're a daughter of a king. You are not a son of a biatch. You're not a son of a bastard. You're not any of those things. You are a son of a king. That's who you are. And there's something really powerful that happens when you know that. And listen to me. I come from a place where I didn't get to start from the starting blocks where most people get to start from. You know what I mean? Like so many people, they get to start from, they came from a good home and, their parents were college graduates and their parents had super good jobs, or mom was home full time and, they went to church every Sunday and they grew up in Sunday school and, they went to Awanas and they memorized all the scriptures. You know what I mean? They got to go to youth group, and I'm not making fun of those things. I'm just painting this picture of what I didn't have. And, you know, I came from the exact opposite of all of that. You know, mom conceived me out of wedlock. Forced my biological father to get married. In fact, it was her mother that forced to the threat of statute rape. That didn't work out, and I never even knew that until I was almost 18 years old and pregnant with my first at 17 out of wedlock, totally repeating the pattern that my mother, my grandmother, and her grandmother before her did. But the fact is this, that I grew up feeling stupid. I grew up feeling unwanted. I grew up feeling like there was something wrong with me. Even though I had been adopted by my mom's new husband, or actually it was boyfriend, you know, for 8 years. And then then they actually got married when I was 8 years old. And then he adopted me. And so anyway, my point is that I grew up feeling like there was something wrong with me. Now, mind you, I had learning disabilities and I couldn't read, and you know, I had some disabilities in my back, and you know, and then my mom broke her neck when I was 11. I was molested the first time when I was 3 until I was 16 years old. It was the last time I was ever molested, was when I was 16 years old, which was amazing to no longer have the fear of my dad, who I thought was my dad, coming into my room you know, had his way with me and to touch me in a way that he should have been touching his wife, but instead he was touching his 12-year-old daughter, and 12 to 14, 16-year-old daughter. So the long and the short of it is that I'm one of those people that when I first got introduced to the business world, when I was 19 years old, I didn't get started in business because I thought I would succeed. I actually got started in business because I knew I could fail. You know, the man that raised me told me I was a failure my whole growing up life. He would say it over and over again, that I was just nothing but a failure. And so I believed that I was a failure. I knew I was a failure. And so as a failure, and maybe, you know, it turned out to be a good thing that he would be very emotionally damaging to me with telling me how stupid I was, how fat I was, how ugly I was, that there would never be a man that would want me or you know, even want to be with me, that, you know, the best that I could hope for, that I was too stupid, I would never make it in life on my own, and that the only hope I could ever have of having any kind of success would be to marry a successful man. And so when you grow up hearing that kind of stuff and a whole lot more stuff, like that's not just all the stuff, I'm giving you the G-rated version of the kind of programming that I had as a child. When you grow up like that, something crazy happens. You actually believe it. You actually believe it. But there I was at 19 years old, and I'm being introduced to a business for the very first time in my life. And when that happened, the first time I was like, oh, you know, that's great for somebody that's smart, but that's certainly not great for somebody like me, because I'm not smart enough to do something like that. I wasn't even smart enough or good enough to get hired by Nordstrom or Macy's, you know, or Gottschalks for that matter, which is like the lower end of any of those kind of department stores. I was only the kind of, you know, I don't know what you would even call it. I was only qualified to work for JCPenney's, like at a mall. Like that was like the best job that I could find, was working at JCPenney's. And it was a really good job that I had at JCPenney's, and I felt super excited about it. But I was that kid that didn't fit into, you know, I wasn't smart enough. I didn't have any talent. The only talent that I had was I played basketball for 15 years, and that's just because I started when I was 6 years old. It wasn't because I was like born with the talent of basketball. But I wasn't born with any talent. I wasn't born with like something specific or unique or special. You know, like some kids, like they can dance, some people can sing, some kids are super coordinated. This was not me. I was just that kid that had to work super, super hard for anything that I achieved any merit of any kind of success. You know, I was a kid that had to work super, super hard, you know, in math to get an A in math. You know, and my junior year, I worked my freaking butt off and got a D in geometry, and that was with a tutor. Like, you know, I hope you understand what I'm saying. Of course, I didn't read my first book till I was 21. And so there's one thing that is very powerful when you know you're stupid. There's something really powerful about knowing that you're dumb. And that is that you have to work much harder than everybody else who thinks they're smart. You have to work harder than everybody else that has that natural born talent, or, you know, those people that, you know, they could write really well, you know, they could write essays like it was nothing and they get an A on it. And then there's someone like me, there's like, oh my gosh, you know, it's like torment to write an essay. And I would write and I would work at it for hours and then produce something that would get a D or a C. You know what I'm saying? So So when I was 19, I got introduced to business. You know, the first time I got introduced, I was like, oh my gosh, there's no way, you know, someone like me can't do that. And I didn't want to fail. And I certainly didn't want to say, oh, I'm afraid of failure. So I gave some other stupid, lame excuses. And you know, then I come and see another opportunity and another opportunity. And then I'm in front of 4 millionaires and hearing them talk about how they got started and what their journey was. And this equation went through my head. And the equation was, man, what if it takes me 20 years to learn what they know? What if I'm the dumbest person in this room and it takes me the longest to be able to succeed? And that longest is like 20 years. What if I fail their income by 90%? And I thought to myself, like, gosh, I know I'm the dumbest person in the world. I know that I'm a slow learner. What if I fail? And I knew I could fail. And so, you know, failing meant that I might make 6 figures a year. That's what it meant, because here's millionaires and I failed their income by 90%, I'd make $100,000. I would never make $100,000 a year working at JCPenney's. It would never happen. I was too stupid. But I knew I was stupid enough to fail. And that's actually how I got started in business. And so something that I often talk about with clients, and especially when we're doing a first step success or creating a dynasty, which is our 3-day training seminars. One is an advanced level that you have to graduate through first steps before you can even get an invitation to come to creating a dynasty. But when you know you're stupid, when you know you're deformed or retarded in some way, you know, against the smart part of society, or there's other really smart people, or there's good looking people, or there's, you know, whatever people that are out there that, you know, just kind of seem to have that favor or whatever, you got to work harder. And one of the things that I've worked harder at, especially after, you know, allowing some really stupid mindsets to draw me into being suicidal and depressed and making really stupid, bad choices. I mean, disgusting, horrible, stupid choices in relationships, stupid choices in my marriage, stupid choices even with my kids, the things I risked early on that were so stupid. But here's what I can tell you. The one area that I worked really hard at was in getting to know God. That's it. You know, I tried to gut myself out when I was 25, and I had been embezzled a couple of years before, and I was working 16 to 18 hours a day to try to salvage my company. And I was being so stupid, and I didn't even realize it. I thought I was being responsible, and I was just draining myself at all ends to the point of trying to literally gut myself with a cleaver and a chef knife. And my husband saved my life. Hans is a martial artist, and although he's 3 inches shorter than I am and 4 years younger than I am, that martial arts thing really came into play, and he disarmed me, and he saved my life, and I will forever be in debt to him for saving my life. The life that I didn't think was worth living, and the life that I thought that he would be happier without me, and that I thought that my kids would be better off without me. He saved my life. And from that point forward, I began to learn how to manage my time. And I sold a company. Hans and I, actually, he was the one who had to make the whole deal happen. I negotiated, and then he was the one who had to execute and you know, close up our building and you know, because it ended up moving to a different city and to the arms of a different owner who bought it. And there were some major changes that had to happen in my life. I had struggled for years, even though I prayed, even though I was seeking God. I was so lost, so confused, and in so much pain. It was as though my entire body was filled with poison. And really, it all started in my mind, the poison of my mind and things that I had heard as a child that I had dwelled on. And how I dug myself out of this pit, largely out of everything else, was seeking God. Not seeking religion, but seeking God. Yeah, religion was a part of it. As you know, I plugged into a kind of a Pentecostal church, and that was really super helpful for a season. But I was still even suicidal inside of that Pentecostal church. In fact, I'd given my life to God in a Pentecostal church 2 years before. I was 23, and yet here I was still wrestling. So religion isn't what helped me. It actually, facilitated in me wanting to kill myself. But what did help me was setting time aside to be alone with my God, setting time aside that was non-negotiable, and getting myself to a quiet place, kind of looking and making a list of all the things that were giving me so much anxiety and so much frustration and so much pain and so much fear, and making a list of all of those things, and making a list even of relationships that I had imprisoned myself to, and the amount of pressure that I had put on myself due to those relationships, and how I saw those relationships, and how I saw life, and how I saw business. And then coming to the place where making a list of what those things were, and then what was healthy for me, and what I wanted. And I wanted to be a mom, and I wanted to be a good wife, and I even though I hated my husband at the time, but I wanted to I wanted to have some rest. I didn't want to be a slave anymore. I didn't want my sleep to be robbed with all the pressure of all the things that I was worried about anymore. And something really powerful happened, because when I started to just kind of give my whole self over to him and surrender myself to him and pursue him with everything that I had, he walked me through so many healings, so much stuff that was buried inside of me from my past that he began to just expose to me, that he wanted to heal me of. I would spend so much time with a journal, trying to hear his voice as I would just be quiet with the journal, and I'd be praying, and then just have a time of being silent and just seeing what would be coming up inside of my soul. And I would begin to write down just encouraging things and things that I was thankful for. And I found that when I would write what I was thankful for, I would feel his presence, and I would feel answers, and I would feel peace, and I would feel kind of a sense of rejoicing. And I dug myself out of a suicidal lifestyle, right? That it really was. I lived a suicidal lifestyle, and every form of it, of self-destruction, really. And so I want to encourage you today. You're not a son of a witch with a capital B. You're not a son of a bastard. You're not a son of a rapist. You're not a son or a daughter of molestation. You're not a son or daughter of incest. And you're not stupid, and you're not dumb. You're not too dumb, and you're not too stupid. You're a son of a king. A son or a daughter of a king. And when you set time aside to spend time with a king, there's something that changes inside of your soul. Rest will come into your soul. Peace will come into your soul. When you begin to lay your life down before him, and you begin to ask him, like, hey, show me, God, the things that are causing this frustration or this fear and this identity that says that I'm broken and I'm a mess and I'm disgusting. And show me how you feel about me. Tell me and teach me who I am, and show me who I think I am. But show me who you say I am. Something begins to shift in your identity, in your very core of who you are. And it's a beautiful shift, because you won't walk as the labels that you've been labeled with. The labels of your sin, the labels of your past. But then you begin, when you get to know him like this, and especially when you read the letters that he wrote to us specifically, you begin to discover that, wait a second, I'm a new creature in him today. I'm not who I was yesterday, and I'm not who I was 32 years ago when I was 18 and I made the biggest mistake of my life. When you realize, wait a second, as far as the east is from the west, he remembers no more. And if I continue to remember, and I continue to bring up my sin for the sake of beating myself up, for the sake of condemning myself, for the sake of criticizing myself, or for the sake of hiding myself in shame, well, then I'm saying that he doesn't exist, and he's a liar, and that his book is a liar. That everything that he is nothing but a lie. Or I can choose to believe the truth that he says that when he sent his son to die on the cross, it was all taken care of. And that if I ask for forgiveness, I am washed clean. I am purified. I am sanctified. I'm cleansed. Now, my sin is as red as scarlet. Now I'm as white as snow. That if I choose to cling to him, then I choose to cling to his truth. It says I'm his daughter, and maybe you're a son. You're the son of a king. And the king desires to spend time with you. The king, the creator of the heavens and the earth, who created all things, the king of the universe, desires to spend time with you. Think about that. Think about that. He desires to spend time with you. With you. How beautiful is that? Think about that. With you. Desires to share with you things that you don't understand. Desires to expand your heart, heal you. Desire to lead you. So if you're the son of a king, that makes you a prince. Doesn't it make sense that the king wants to spend time with his heir? And if you are a daughter of a king, then you're a princess. Doesn't it make sense that the king wants to spend time pouring in to his prince and princess? So you have a choice to make. Would you rather spend time here on Facebook or on a podcast or on Instagram or on YouTube? Or would it be awesome to open up your heart to the intimacy that your king wants to have with you, preparing you for life, preparing you with wisdom, preparing you with understanding, preparing you with maturity so you lack nothing, preparing you by giving you that time of peace and rest with him. It's beautiful. Doesn't it make more sense to set aside that appointment every day, to pursue that relationship like every single day? That habit has changed my life. I can't say that I haven't sinned. I have. I've screwed up really big, actually, like huge, like catastrophic. But my Father, who is also a king, he's rescued me out of my own sin. Even as a believer, even as one who walks with him, he's cleansed me, he's purified me. And he's brought me to intimate places with him, intimate places of understanding, intimate places of healing. He's also done the same with me and my husband. The same. And with certain friends, just intimacy and relationship and steadfastness and faithfulness and honor and trust. I believe that you desire intimacy deeply more than anything else that you desire. Because in intimacy, it scatters away loneliness, which means that it opens you up to peace, to real peace. And see, there's only one that you can gain intimacy from. And it's really the one who desires intimacy. It's the one who planted the desire for intimacy in you because it will lead you to him. You see, other people that choose to continue to live this crazy, unfruitful life are those that are answering the call of intimacy with sugar or caffeine. They're answering the call of intimacy with, baseball stats and addictions to porn or sex addictions or video game addictions, shopping addictions. I mean, alcohol and drugs is like, yeah, and like there's so many, but we desire intimacy. He made us for intimacy. And so here's what we do is in this desire for intimacy, we seem to be attracted to things that we think are going to answer that loneliness. But he's the only one that can answer the loneliness. He's the only one that was made to bring intimacy inside of our hearts. And the more that you seek and press into him for that, the more intimacy you'll have with your spouse, or the spouse that you will have one day. The more you'll have intimate relationships with your children and some of your friends, and the places that you're supposed to, the healthy places you're supposed to have intimate relationships. But it all starts with an intimate relationship with him. So I encourage you today, set time aside in your calendar, whether that's getting up extra early or talking throughout the day. It's almost like, wow, do you ever think of texting the king? What if you could? Well, just imagine it. Just imagine it. Just think of it like, I can text him. I can talk to him. I can talk to him when I'm at work. I can talk to him when I'm driving. I can talk to him when I'm cooking. I can talk to him when I'm cleaning. I can talk to him when I'm working out. I can talk to him anytime, any place, anywhere. So I challenge you today. Do you want that intimacy? You want that peace? Do you want to know who you really are as a son of a king or a daughter of a king? And the value that that is for your life, and how it will steer your life, and the different decisions that you will make, and the peace that it opens you up to, and the time that you get to sit right there at the throne with your Father. What a beautiful thing. Your chosen friend. He adores you, friend. And as far as the east is from the west, he remembers no more. God bless you, and thanks for joining me today.